The road to the 2024 election continues Saturday in South Carolina, and we are only 18 days away from Georgia's presidential primary. So there's plenty to discuss with my guest, NBC's Kristen Welker, moderator of Meet the Press. So Kristen, Georgia voters will want to know if Nikki Haley will still be in this race on March 12th, and it sounds like she's staying in no matter what happens in her home state of South Carolina. So what's the thought process inside of her campaign right now?
Well, Jennifer, it's great to be with you. Nikki Haley has been defiant. She says she's in this race through Super Tuesday. It is notable. When I talked to her a couple of weeks ago, I said, what do you have to do to stay in this race beyond South Carolina? She said, I have to do better in South Carolina than I did in New Hampshire. I have to show improvement. Now she has been asked a similar question, and she just point blank says she is going to stay in this race through Super Tuesday. So her calculation is that she is racking up delegates, and she's going to stay in this until she can't make any argument anymore to be able to stay in this race. Of course, she also is going to go through Michigan. That's a state where they have a crossover vote like New Hampshire. Could she do well there? We'll have to wait and see. But look, let's talk about South Carolina. She is trailing former President Trump in some polls by as much as 30 points. If she loses by that amount in her home state, there's no doubt that would be a setback. It would be an embarrassment. And again, I think the question would just grow about what is her rationale for staying in the race. What we have noticed is that her rhetoric has only gotten tougher against Trump. And some of her supporters have said to me, have said to others, hey, wait a minute. Why didn't she have this type of rhetoric from day one? Could that have made a difference if she had come out of the gate this strong? So we will have to wait and see what happens in South Carolina. But again, the expectations are that she is facing really steep odds on Saturday.
Yeah, certainly a lot of folks wondering that same question. All right, so let's move on to the Democratic side of the aisle. On Sunday, you have an exclusive interview with California Governor Gavin Newsom. Some in the party have made a push for him to step in because of concerns about President Joe Biden's age. But Kristen, Newsom seems to be all in when it comes to supporting President Biden.
You're absolutely right. Governor Newsom has absolutely been all hands on deck, saying that he is out talking to people front and center, crisscrossing the country for the Biden-Harris ticket. He has repeatedly been asked if there is any chance he would get in this race. He has repeatedly said absolutely not. And of course, he'll have to face similar questions with me when I sit down with him. But look, you're right. The calls for him to get in the race have grown louder in the wake of that special counsel report, which basically described President Biden as an elderly man with a poor memory, really devastating language that infuriated a number of Democrats who behind the scenes said that the alarm bells are going off, in part because of that, but in part just because of the polling, with 76% of Americans say that they have concerns about President Biden's age and ability to serve. So from that perspective, he's facing some real headwinds. Of course, former President Trump in a general election is facing his own set of headwinds, facing 4 indictments, 91 criminal counts. But the bottom line, Gavin Newsom, I anticipate if he continues to strike the same tone that we have heard him strike in every single public appearance, is going to throw his full support behind the Biden-Harris ticket.
I want to ask you something about an issue that has made headlines all over the country. A big ruling this week from the Alabama Supreme Court on IVF, in vitro fertilization, and the court ruled that frozen embryos are children, and some IVF clinics in Alabama have stopped providing those services, at least for now. So this really puts Republicans in a bind. But we're already seeing some movement here, Kristen, for legislation to protect IVF services. Is that what we're likely to see here?
It certainly is possible. I think it's a really important point and an important question. And just zooming out for a minute, the politics of this could not be more complicated for Republicans who, after fighting for nearly half a century to overturn Roe v. Wade, a number of GOP strategists have confided to me there's not really a unified strategy politically or a unified message. And they say that is hurting them at the ballot box. We saw that in the midterms. We saw that in special elections all across the country. So will Republicans be able to get on the same page? I can tell you that a memo just went out from the NRSC, which basically said to Senate candidates, hey, look, you should make it very clear that you support people having access to IVF services. This is something that people all across the country struggle with, fertility, infertility, and it's something that really hits at the heart for a lot of Americans. And so I think you're going to really see Republicans try to grapple with how do they respond to this ruling in Alabama, and also the question, will we see other state Supreme Courts take similar steps as we did in Alabama? Will IVF services be further limited in other states? That remains to be seen. But the blowback that we are seeing from that ruling in Alabama, frankly, on both sides of the aisle, has really been quite extraordinary.
Yeah, it's certainly a big concern for many families. Meet the Press airs Sunday at 10 right here on 11 Live. Kristen, thank you as always.
Thanks, Jennifer.